Hey everyone, welcome to the program WRSA Radio. I'm your host G1. As always, hope you're having a good week. It's been a busy one for me, lots of things going on around the old homestead, but I'm not too busy to be keeping up with the latest and greatest political bullshit that's been going on. So, what do we have on the old program for this week? Well, we're talking about the 900-pound gorilla in the room, this so-called anti-ICE riots that began last week or so, Thursday or Friday, I guess, and they've been going on ever since, primarily in Los Angeles, but they are now popping up all over the country in much smaller levels of commitment, I might add. Now, I've been following these on a nightly basis, and it takes me back somewhat fondly to those heady days of the summer of love after the George Floyd riots got underway. And you could be treated to a nightly batch of live streams on YouTube of people acting a damn fool and showing normal people just how far we've fallen. Now, we're getting yet another taste of this, although I have to say, from what I have seen so far, this is a far more restrained version of the thing. There has been some destruction, but nothing like the widespread looting, the burning, the glass breaking, just the general mayhem, damage to property that happened, in 2020. This has been much more local and much smaller crowds, at least outside of Los Angeles. There's been some that have popped up in Dallas and Atlanta and Oklahoma City. There are a couple of other places. Very small, sympathetic demonstrations. And I think that signals some things. And I don't think I've seen anyone bring this up and make note of it. So I thought it'd be a good topic for the show this week. Now, let me offer some caution to this before I get going, because my assessment of it is in the here and the now. This is the middle of the week after it's just got going. And I'm just observing what I've seen on the live streams, which are pretty good. They're people embedded in the demonstrations. They're YouTube personality types that are streaming this out. This coming weekend, it's been announced on social media that there is to be a wide-scale demonstration all across the country. And more on that shortly, but for now, just understand, everything that I'm about to get into may go out the window this weekend. Okay? We'll have to remain vigilant and flexible in our assessment based off the changing conditions of the field. But this is what I'm seeing right now and my analysis of it. So with that said, these demonstrations, as I said, are far smaller than 2020. They're not significantly cross-cultural, meaning I do not see large numbers of whites and blacks in attendance here. They're there, but they're not in any kind of numbers like we saw in 2020. There's Antifa there, there's some other leftist organizations, some of the communist organizations. Mostly what you're seeing are the Latino, the Hispanic, the Mexican type organizations, La Raza, some of these other groups that are out there, leftist groups, no doubt. But we're just not seeing these massive numbers of college-age white kids or black kids, or the black thug types coming out, doing all the looting and all that. We're just not seeing that in support of these demonstrations. And I think that's significant. I think it signals that, at least on this specific issue, it's definitely a hot button issue for the left, but it's not generating widespread support for anything beyond a video or a social media post. It's just not playing well to the larger leftist crowd. And this tracks with some of the polls that are coming out as well. Some of the polls that even leftist media is publishing out there, which is showing widespread support across the board for immigration enforcement, deportations. And I think this signals some fracturing, at least in this leftist coalition, and kind of weakness in their overall political position. I think they're playing their hand, overplaying their hand, for example. I don't see this street activity having a long lifespan. I just don't think it's going to last very long. I think what you are seeing from the leftist upper echelon is a desperate attempt to gin up support and to create a wider level of emotional attachment to this issue. And they're doing this by staging these public stunts where, some leftist political figure like Maxine Waters or the senator today from California, they try to confront somebody that's involved with ICE or Homeland Security or some other government entity or what have you, and get some kind of outrageous thing caught on camera. And they're doing that to try to hook in, the average left-wing viewer, the average NPC, the fellow traveler, this kind of thing. They know that this just isn't hitting the crowd in its nuggets, okay? So they're trying to get one of their people arrested or prosecuted or something like that so they can, point to it and scream that this is fascism, Trump is out of control, you've got to be afraid, woo, all this. So far it's just not making the cut. It's just not happening. They're just not getting the traction with the everyday person. The average American is looking at this and going, I got no sympathy for them. They're here illegally. They broke the law. Go home. Now there's the only real debate, the breakdown in that group is, well, do we deport them all, or do we have some legal immigration or legal pathway for some of them to stay? That's the only real debate. Everybody, for the most part, is saying you got to go back. But this weekend could change all of that, okay? They could get what they're looking for. As I said, there's a map and an announcement that has been going around social media about mass protests all over the country this Saturday. That's the 14th. And the map shows all these locations that are supposed to be these protest locations. And it looks like it's very organized, and it's going to be millions of people out in the street in support of this. At least that's what they want you to think. And it's not real. When you look at the map more closely at these locations, it's mostly college campuses and DNC offices, and it's just places like that. Town squares. It's maybe the town square is a location, but it just seems rather at odds with a place that really would make sense for a mass protest. Why would you have a mass protest on a college campus? It's not really, only the college kids are going to see that, right? In other words, it looks really fake. It's astroturfed. And I'll go out on a limb and suggest that I bet that maybe 1 in 5 of those locations will actually have someone standing at them for more than about 15 minutes during the day. It's kind of what we've seen at some of these other protests that, the event is slipping my mind. The outrage of the day is slipping my mind. But there were some protests that were supposedly going on a few months back, and it was supposedly this widespread thing, very similar, and people went and looked at some of these locations during the day, and there was like 3 people there for about 15 minutes, and then they were like, yeah, nothing's going on, okay, let's leave. I'm thinking it's going to be something very much like that. Now, this protest is being funded by an organization calling itself No Kings, which is implying that Donald Trump has somehow begun to frame himself as King of America or whatever, and he's on a power trip. And this is running parallel with some of the local DNC propaganda that I've been seeing here in my area. They have signs about that say things like, "We don't have a king in America," and stupid stuff like that. It's the same kind of, focus group language that they put that together on some Zoom call at DNC headquarters, a month ago or whatever, a couple of weeks ago. And they think, oh, this sounds so clever and we're going to get so much mileage out of it, and they ran with it. This No Kings organization has also been sending funding to the riots. And in fact, it's just one of a host of leftist political NGOs that are funding this insurrection. The ACLU, for example. And I'm calling it an insurrection. If they can use that language, then so can we. So where do these NGOs get all their money? Well, some of the money, of course, is from the wealthy leftists, like one of the Walmart heirs, Sam Walton's daughter. She's a major funder for No Kings. So some of this is from private, wealthy, progressive, leftist, communists. But the vast amount of the funds are coming through these NGOs in the form of government grants. So you and I are funding this bullshit with our tax dollars. This is more of that USAID type activity that's been going on, whereby the deep state is using tax dollars to fund destabilization efforts, not only all over the world, but here at home as well. In other words, folks, this is an attempted color revolution taking place right here on U.S. soil. Not the first one, but just the latest iteration of it. So let's open that playbook for a minute, because this is serious stuff that you need to be thinking about. What do these color revolutions have in common? Well, they masquerade as legitimate grassroots organic movements, when in fact they're highly top-heavy and centrally organized. And they're paying demonstrators to go to these protests. They pay agitators to show up in the crowds. And those agitators are there to do one thing. They're there to provoke and instigate an overreaction from the law enforcement that are on the ground. They want a shooting or a beating. They want mass arrests. They want gas and flashbangs and all the water hoses and the dogs and all of that. They're trying to get the government to lash out at the protesters. And yes, they want casualties. They want someone to be killed or maimed in this action so that they can use that death or injury to stoke public outrage and build popular support for the movement. And keep in mind, they don't need there to be really a widespread popular support for it. They just need enough that the media can cover the rest. The media can create the rest. They'll make it appear to the average viewer or reader that perhaps they are in the minority. They may not like this. The average viewer may look at this and go, I don't like this. I don't agree with this at all. But the media will say, quote, most people support this. And that makes the average viewer go, well, I don't want to be in the minority. I don't want to be the person that doesn't support this, so maybe I should change my position. So they just needed there to be enough mass at the protests that the media can spin that into a fictional tale of popular support, even if it's really just a small percentage of people that actually do want what this revolutionary movement wants. And when they have that in place, then they have the political cover to launch their judicial and perhaps even military coup efforts. The end goal being to replace the sitting government with a government that is handpicked and completely in control of the deep state, like we just came out of. And that's the play here. Perhaps they simply just want to gin this up long enough to cover election fraud for 2026. But I don't think they can sustain it for that long. Like I said, I just don't think this has legs to go to 2026, to the midterms. I think there's more to it than that. I believe that this is a main effort. This is a concerted effort to go after the Trump administration and destabilize it and really try to steal control of the government from it. I think they want to use this to build cover for a coup attempt, a real in-the-street revolution. That's what they're trying to create. And that remains to be seen. And frankly, at this point, it's not the most critical thing to be concerned with, because you got to get through this weekend first. What needs to be, or should be, at the forefront of your thinking. I don't want to be trying to tell you what to think, but what I think should be something on your mind is, what does it mean for this weekend? I don't have all the answers to that. You're going to have to noodle that out for your own situation, because some of you might be near some of these demonstrations and not be aware of it. I urge you to go check out that map and look at those spots and see how close they are to you and try to avoid them. Your personal situation might be at risk here, and you're going to have to make some assessments of that. That's what inspired me to make this kind of the focus of the show today. You need to be aware that there's a distinct possibility that one of these events this weekend may turn very violent in an effort to create a martyr event, or even a villain, somebody that they can be the poster child for all the anger and hatred that the left has, or a group of people who will be the victims that invoke that emotional response that the left is looking for. They want victims, so stay away from these events. I know you guys are smart enough to do this, but maybe some of your people are not. Okay, let them know that they need to be away from these things. It's not going to be a safe place for you. Also, if you tell your people that, hey, it's a warning, hey, don't go near these things, you're going a long way to combat the programming that is downstream from any of these events happening. Should they occur, you're inoculating them against the propaganda that is inevitably going to follow. Let them know that they should be on the lookout for something like this happening and be ready to reject it as a psyop, because that's exactly what it is. It's a psyop. We have to be really vigilant here, okay? I think we're on the cusp of something major happening in the timeline. Maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong before about that, but something just feels like it's coming to a head, at least to some extent. And if we play our cards right, it may go our way. But we just have to be really aware of it, really vigilant about it, and watch what's taking place. So be safe out there. Keep safe this weekend. Keep your people safe. That is all I have time for. Like and subscribe. Come see us over on Gab, Nice Crew, and the Mothership, hosted at the Cold Fury blog. And I'll see you guys on the next episode.